What's up everybody, hope you're all doing good out there. So welcome back to Benny's house. Thanks for the great comments I had back in the previous video. You guys are learning a lot, I can see from that, and I'm glad to teach. I'm glad to share my experience with you guys. So now moving on, we'll be continuing with the other parts of the video where I continue to explain how I shot the scenes and then show you how it looked like in the final video. So let's do the rest of the video. Let's move straight to it. Let's go. Yeah, so day 2, we plan to make it one day, but due to the delay, we're shooting today, which is a Sunday. So I'm back at the venue, the church, and this time we're shooting. But then a little delay today to waiting for the church to be opened. So I got here not too long ago, waiting in the car then because it's cold outside. It's freezing. So let's see how it goes. I'm just anticipating what I'm going to do. I want to get some really cool shots today. I want to get some really cool shots of the wedding. I want to do something really creative. So I'm thinking. So in the second part of the video, that is on the second day, the venues we used were a church premises, and then we used a restaurant. So that would finalize the whole shoot. So these two different places had their own challenges actually, and there were different kinds of challenges we had to face in a day. So let's go through the details and then you get to know what challenges we had and how we had to deal with them. Let's move straight to it. So the very interesting thing that happened in the church was that the place was very cold. It was even colder than outside. I don't know, because probably they didn't have a proper heating system, or the heating system was completely off. So we had to still use the place like that. The bride and the groom obviously couldn't have their jackets on. They had to take them off and they were really freezing. And because the venue was really cold, we had vapor coming out of their mouth anytime they talk. And I realized that when I started shooting, and I was like, wow. So, you know, the vapor is whitish, so I have to get a white background behind the guy. So anytime he speaks, we wouldn't really notice the vapor. But let's see the videos and let's see how it looks like, because that was a challenge too. So you can see me in the church premises unpacking my gear, and I have to actually walk around because the place is very cold. I have to walk around to keep myself warm. I'm bringing my stuff, my tripod, my gimbal. So as usual, we took the bride and the groom to the altar and it was time to shoot the vow. So I'm going to show you the takes I had for this scene. I shot different angles for this scene, and that's because I wanted it to be very dynamic. I didn't want to have just one look and it will get boring after some time. So I did a number of takes with different angles. Let's see how it looks like. Let me summarize what is happening here. The scenario I was given was that there'll be the arrival of the bride while the groom looks on and is admiring his wife-to-be, and then there'll be an action of vow, but the guy would only hear the guy's part, and then that would basically be the whole thing. We decided to add a priest to the scene to make it more real and more dramatic. That's basically what is happening in this scenario. Let's see how I went about it with the angles and with my focusing and everything. Let's see it. So I have two people in this frame, the guy and the priest. But I asked him to keep smiling and admiring her, though no one was standing there. Yeah. And the priest does his own actions at the background. So we capture both. Now then I moved to shoot the bride. So initially I decided to shoot the bride somewhere from her garment upwards. But then shooting, and I realized that actually the church is empty and we don't want to show that. So I changed the scene, but let's see the scene which I had the background showing. To avoid the empty pews in the church, I decided to shoot from below. So I squat a little bit and focus on her face while she walks towards me. So with that, I just have the upper parts of the building showing, of the church showing, the ceiling and the rest. So we don't get to know that the church is empty. And in the final video, I just took the middle portion of this video so that we don't get the extreme cases where I can see the head level of people and we get to know that there's no one in the hall, and then where it ends. So I take the middle portion and we'll see that soon. So moving on to the scene where there's the exchange of vows. So I first shot the guy reciting all that he's supposed to say. Okay, so that would be my main shot, so that any other shots I take will just be replacing some scenes from this main shot. So always make sure to get a flawless take and have that as your main scene. So that will be your backup, and then you can do other takes to replace them so it doesn't get boring. So that's one tip I use for all my videos. I always make sure I have a base line there, and it helps. So this is the scene where I have the focus on him while he speaks. Paying much attention to this video, you'd see the vapor come out of his mouth. Though the background is not too dark, it is still obvious. And I didn't really want this to show in the final video because no one marries very comfortably in such a cold environment. That's not normal, so it doesn't have to show. So in the next scene, I decided to switch and move to the groom's left side and to shoot from there. So in this scene, you can see as we are taking something out of frame, which is a distraction. So that's a heater actually, but this heater is doing basically nothing. So this is our take from this angle. So in this angle, we can actually see his tears properly, and we can pay attention to the details. And then at this point, I was like, we've gotten enough of the groom, we've gotten enough of the guy's face. Let's get the lady's face to interchange. Let's get her facial expressions. You know, she's not talking in this video, so let's get her melting, blushing looks and interchange them with the main scene. For this scene, I could have easily said, oh, let her just react and let me just shoot a small portion. But to make it really natural, I made them go through the whole line for this scene. So she reacts throughout, and then I choose what I think suits best for it. So let's watch how that scene looks like. So he recites the full verse and I shoot everything. So as time moves on, the reactions are getting good. They're getting good. They're getting better. Yeah. And to crown it all is to get all of them in frame so that we can also add a scene to it where we've gotten the guy's face, we've gotten the lady's face, and now let's get everyone in frame with the priest in the middle. So with anyone who's going to watch the final video, you'd have a really detailed picture of how the whole scene look like. Now we can have everyone in frame, and you should do that actually to your videos sometimes. Don't always have those closing shots and leave it like that. Sometimes let's see the whole scene. Let's get to have a full idea of what's happening in the whole room. So now let's see the final scene for the church, given the information I received earlier as to how it's supposed to be and the angles I used and whatever thing I discussed earlier. So let's see how it looks like.
Just before we begin our journeys together, my love, I only have these few words to say. Saying I do and saying I will. I will love you today and every day for the rest of my life.
Now this is something extra for my viewers, so I'll be showing you some scenes which didn't feature in the final video actually, and not because they weren't good scenes, because these scenes are actually good. As I said previously, the video was really restricted on duration, so I had to stick to that and use the really important scenes according to my opinion that tell the story. So some scenes were cut out and I'll be showing those scenes right now. Well, the reason why this particular scene wasn't used was, I think it's quite obvious. We can see that the place is empty. We just have 3 people in the whole chat. So here I just captured reactions of the priests separately, so I can use them wherever I desire. And then I shot some B-roll of the church in case I would need it. So now the next scene, as said earlier, is a restaurant. And here, this is where the guy meets the lady for the first time, and then they have their first conversation, and then the story continues from there. I decided to create this very cool romantic night setting in the restaurant. So here the guy is already at the restaurant working on his laptop, and then the lady arrives, he spots her, and then he approaches her. Throughout the scene the lady would be with her friend too. If it's just the guy and it's just the lady and they meet together, it's so obvious. So he approaches her specifically even though her friend is around. So I shot the scene of the guy working on his laptop first. So for this scene I made them take out the ambient light and used just my key lights on the subjects I was shooting. That was the look I was going for. That was the feel I was going for. So this is my key light angled on him from his left. This is how the light looks from his left side. Well, I felt the shadows on the right were too contrasted. So I moved the light to his right side, and I feel that looks much better. Let's compare and see. So in this scene we can appreciate the laptop much better. Now moving quickly, let's see how this scene looks in the final video.
I've been trying to focus all of the little moments that I don't want to forget.
While he's working on the laptop, then the lady enters with her friend, and then he turns to look at them. So I shot them separately actually. I then moved on to shoot the lady. I told them to go outside, and then they enter the restaurant. They just open the door and then they're having their own conversation. They just enter. They don't pay attention to the camera or to the guy. So let's see how that scene looks like too. And now in the final cut. Moving on, the lady's having a conversation with her friend, and then the guy approaches. So now, because I was using a 50mm lens, from the distance at which I stood, I couldn't capture all of them, and I didn't really also want to get a lot of the background. So I just met the guy. Let's just see how I shot this video. Let's see the takes, and then I'll explain as it shows. So this is a wide view of how it looks with the key light I used and the background and how I shot it. Because it's a 50mm lens I used, we can't see the full image of the guy while he walks in frame. So I then asked him to just show a hand gesture which would appear in the frame, asking for a seat. So we'll see him show his hands in frame. He takes a seat. For the final scene, to make it interesting, I moved to the side where I can have the guy and the lady facing each other, but with the friend in the background, so we can still know that she's around. So the guy and the lady are facing each other, and it's the first time they meet, so they're exchanging numbers and having an interesting conversation with each other. So the rule would be, anytime you're moving your camera and you're having just one source of light, make sure the light also moves in the same fashion the camera is moving, except you're intentional and you want to keep it that way, because the moment you shift your angle with just one key light, you move to the shadows or you don't really get flattering light. So anytime you move the camera, be sure to move the light. So here I moved the camera and the light, and we adjusted the lights to suit what we wanted. So I like how this angle came out, because we have the guy and the lady at eye level. I placed the camera at eye level with them, and it's like we can relate with them as they have their own conversation. So in a relaxed setting, not above them, not below them, but in the same level, and it just makes it interesting. So let's see how it looks like, and I want to see if you guys would agree with me. If you agree with me that this scene was actually cool, just hit the like button right now. Let me know you like this scene. All together, let's see how the final scene looked like.
Moment is bent deep into my brain and in my heart since the first time I laid eyes on you.
Again, for this, there's a scene which didn't feature in the final cut. Well, I realized I was doing too much of over the shoulder angles, so I decided to take this scene out, and it wouldn't really affect the final cut. So this scene didn't feature in the final video, but let's see it, because it's not bad at all. I was actually glad to work on this project because we worked on a budget, and making use of what we had, I think, is the best way of working, because it squeezes out every juice of creativity in you. And that's what you want to do. You don't want to have, sometimes I feel when you have all the equipment and when you have all the venues and all the lighting at your disposal, it limits your creativity. Build up from the little you have, try to be creative. And that's when you understand lighting and you understand camera angles, you can use them, and people would actually be baffled. So people watch your videos and they can't really tell the difference between someone who shoots with very expensive equipment and then you, the one shooting with stuff on a budget. Okay, I would say get the foundations of videography right. Your lighting, how to manually handle your camera, that's controlling your exposure triangle, how to use your camera angles to convey the message you want your viewers to receive, and then you can think of now getting all the expensive equipment. So first of all, make sure you know the basics, make sure you have the foundation there, and then you can build on from there. Because if you're waiting to get all the expensive equipment, you're waiting to have multiple cameras so that you can have multiple angles, well, that will limit your creativity, and also you'd have a lot of work to do in post-production. So I had at least 3 cameras at my disposal for this shot, but I went in with just one. Not to say that it's bad in using several cameras, okay, it was a risk I took because you never know how big or how small your venues are. That is to say that having just one camera and having just one lens shouldn't limit you. It should even rather squeeze out the creativity in you, as I said earlier. So guys, I've actually been out there creating more content for this channel. That is why there had been a little delay. So I'm back with more content for you guys, expressing how I shoot my videos, showing you the mistakes I make as usual, so that we can all learn, because I learn from my mistakes. So I'll see you guys on the next video. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, like and share with people so they can keep learning. So let's interact in the comment section, okay? Let me know your thoughts, let me know your proposal, your honest reviews. If there's any topic you like me to tackle in my next videos, you can recommend them in the comment section and let me know about them. So until the next video, be breezy.